Hey everyone, it's Carpo again, and today I would like to talk about the wussification of our society. There's so much to talk about here and so much to cover, and I hope I don't forget any of it, but I have to remember it in the noggin. I guess I could probably write these things out and be more coherent and cohesive with my discussion, and in which case I would be able to read it out loud, but I don't, because I think of ideas that pop up in my head, and when I talk about the wussification, don't cancel me. Oh no. Bringing up even certain terms or using certain words. I actually had a discussion this last weekend where somebody left the conversation because they said, "Oh, I don't want to be part of this conversation," because I was talking about words only having meaning if we give power to them. And the girl was African American, and we were a couple of white guys talking about racism, so obviously she felt uncomfortable. But I told her why. I want to have these conversations with everyone because we are too sensitive and too triggered by everything, and we make assumptions about everything. We make assumptions about one another, all of our intentions, who we are, what we mean. What I mean by the wussification is an entire generation of kids growing up complaining about everything and wanting everything their way. You may call it the millennial generation. I don't buy into the generational thing. It's almost as if society, by design, allows this to happen because it allows for easier control. And I'm not going to go into the conspiracy realm on this one, but to give you an example, we've always had nosy neighbors, that kind of thing. But today we have the Karen complex. People who don't just worry about protecting their own property from a neighbor who might be there on the other side causing problems, but out in society telling others what they should or shouldn't do, or suspecting others of doing something they didn't do. As well as the helicopter parent complex. We've all heard about kids not being able to go out and play, and parents who are allowing their kids to play. What they're actually called free-range parents. Well, I'm a free-range parent. My 9-year-old and 12-year-old go out and they roam around the neighborhood. There's some parents have actually been fined and even arrested and jailed for letting their kids go to the park by themselves. This is the kind of world we're living in. This is the kind of nation, I should say, we're living in. It's not fair to put the world in that position because it's the United States that is losing its freaking mind right now. Everyone is to an extent. There's a lot going on out there, but let me give you a perfect example of a definition of where I'm coming from. The participation trophy, which started back when I was a kid even. And as a kid competing, I thought, why would they give away trophies to everyone? The interesting thing is I found out the other day that the participation trophy, or the trophy industry, is a $3 billion a year industry, and they make plenty of money off of it. Why not give one to everybody, right? Why just give one to the guy in first place? And, to not allow kids to really compete, I think, takes away that feeling of winning at, the cost of losing the person's feeling of doing something and succeeding at something in order to not make somebody else feel bad, to be all-inclusive. And it's a self-esteem issue. Competition is natural and it's important, especially with males. And you cannot get away from that. Kids want to be put in their place. They want to know where they stand. They want to know what they can and can't do. And then as kids get a little bit older, I've noticed this also in, college age kids. I'm going to tell you something. I'm a liberal. Big surprise, right? But when I see these kids out there, and adults out there saying, we need to forgive student debt, I say no. I do not agree. I know that college is expensive. But this is a capitalist society, and you took the college degree. You chose to go to college for a few years, learn a trade or get a degree in something, and you signed papers that said you would pay that money back. Yeah, it's a ripoff. Absolutely. But when I was a carpenter, I had to pay for all my own tools, my own training, license, and insurance. Am I going to get reimbursed for all the money I spent learning to be a carpenter? No. You went to school, pay your fucking bills, and move on. And these are the things that people are surprised. Liberal-minded people think that I should feel that everyone should have everything forgiven, and I don't. I took on debts in my life, and I paid those fuckers off. That's what you do. So the student debt thing is just ridiculous. It's an extreme version of entitlement that I completely don't agree with. And as adults, you move into the adult realm, and there's plenty of entitled adults, whether they be, young, middle-aged, or old. This idea that the thing is, we don't all have equal looks. We will not all have equal opportunities, and we don't have equal strength or equal traits. We are different, unique people. And I've watched over the last 20 years as society tries to homogenize those things. Oh, I see no color, I see no sex, I see no difference in people. Bullshit. The difference is what we yearn for. It's what our ego means. In fact, we've tried to abandon the ego in this idea that, being an individual is somehow frowned upon, unless it's what our group thinks is appropriate, right? So, yeah, you're not a badass, no matter who you are. You're not an exception. Humility goes a long way as a human being. So, sometimes trying hard isn't good enough. You won't get a trophy. You won't win. That's what keeps competition going. Now, in theory, this is all true. But in practice, to give you another example, in one of the grade schools I saw, or middle schools, they stopped keeping score in baseball. So they had these kids who go out and they try out and they play this game and they work their asses off. They stopped keeping score. But of course, the parents are keeping score. But the whole thing is, if you're not keeping score, then it's not a game. What's the point? Maybe I focus too much on the game thing, but this is a metaphor for the larger game, the societal game, the financial game. United States children rank number 1 in the world in self-esteem when it comes to mathematics and thinking they know math well. Number 1. But they rank number 27th in the world in actual math. So, yes, it's good to feel good about yourself. But if you feel so good about yourself you become arrogant and you think you know more than you know, that's only going to hold us back, not as individuals only, but as a whole society, as a nation, So this brings me to the point and the metaphor here, which isn't about necessarily just children, but, the game is rigged. It's always been rigged. We can't let businesses thrive and prosper because we have so much invested in lobbying efforts to try to keep the big corporations and keep their money flowing, which is the reason why we create more laws. More laws protect less people, but they also protect more groups. And it's fascinating how this unfolds, but it ends up culminating in a police coming and shutting down a kid's lemonade stand because they don't have a food handler's card and they're not complying with city law. A hot day. A couple kids out there with a lemonade stand, and the cops show up and shut it down. It happened, not just once, several times. Our laws end up getting in the way of our common sense and our ability to see through things. Nobody's going to die from drinking a cup of lemonade. It's not likely to be poisoned. And it's not likely to be that bad. I mean, God, I know how grimy kids are, but you get the point. Then there's zoning laws, or people getting arrested and literally for not cutting their grass, or having their grass too long, or having their weeds too long, or having a garden which they think are weeds, or collecting your own rainwater. We have so many laws that they are completely twisting up our society. And bureaucracy means too many cops. And so this has started to culminate over the past, couple of years. This is changing. There are less and less police out there, and I'm sure you've all noticed this too. At least where I live. When people talk about needing more cops, I understand why we need cops for certain things. But there was a time when you couldn't even drive down the freeway a mile without having 3 cops sitting on the side of the road for hours just trying to give people tickets for speeding. Bullshit. We can handle ourselves on the highway. We don't need your oversight. You see what I mean? But so society is slowly changing. We're slowly taking, taking back, I guess, what it means to live in a society instead of. I guess the thing is, the reason why so many people feel entitled and want free shit is because the government is so corrupt, so crooked. They take a third of our money through tax dollars and they use it for the military. This is ridiculous to many of us. And in this regard, I would like to say this is where I can understand why people believe that student debt should be forgiven or that they shouldn't have to pay for certain things. Now, I think that if you're a member of society and you're functioning and you work and you participate and contribute, then you should be taken care of. It's not about socialism, it's more about making sure that all of us are taken care of so we take care of each other. But I don't believe that really anybody is entitled to anything just because, especially if you signed a paper. It's a big difference. I didn't sign a paper agreeing when I was born to pay this money to go to this war or this or that. But a person did sign a paper saying I want to go to college and I expect to make more money over my lifetime. So I think getting that money back just seems a little ridiculous to me. So I'm hoping I covered all the points I wanted to. And I broke up this video. I had like 3 different ideas I wanted to share, but I usually compile it into a half-hour video. I just made 3 different videos because it'll probably be easier to post and easier on you who don't want to hear one part or another. Anyhow, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, visit me on Patreon. Links in the description. And I'll see you all next time. Be well.